Well, I'm back. You think those prior streams were some drama? I was going to go off on Kim, who had been, trying to provoke me back into it too, on quite a couple of occasions, but I decided not to because I think she did enough herself on that audio porn she did the other night. She did it all to herself. I don't have to say a word. Oh, man. Tell you, it wasn't even age restricted. So I am going to pick up where I left off here and try to stay in my zone, do what I like to do, and that is crafts, arts and crafts, making jewelry. And I'm going to disassemble my um, electric drill here and put that away. I brought out one of the pieces I made when I first started wire wrapping, and it was very simple to make. I have a little cup of them here. I just kept practicing. It's very easy. Hold on a minute. I gotta do something here before I go on cam. This wire wrapping really does a number on your fingernails. But I guess I'm not gonna get it off. I have a darkish tinge to my hands from working with copper. So I'm going to open up the cam here. This is some of the first wire wrapping I did when I first started. That's what I wanted, and it was for earrings. But I kept, I didn't really like the way they turned out. It was weird working with this wire that's tarnish resistance, I guess you could say. Let me try and get a lighter, some better light and some better focus. Yeah, that's some of the first I did. Something like that. That's a tiger eye in there. Just small, simple pieces that I could use for earrings. And these are really easy to make. Here's the other one. This is some of the first wire wrapping I did. This is, let me see, a tiger eye stone. Let me try and get the light to hit it just right. It's a tiger eye, and I think it's called labradorite. You can see the light flash in it. It's really pretty stone. They're natural, they're not dyed. This is malachite, which is, I guess, man-made. But this is some of the wire wrapping that I tried. And show you how I did it. Some different kinds of wires. This here is aluminum wire, and it's too soft. I don't like the aluminum wire, but it's perfect for this type of work as long as you have this here where you're going to make the bales, a sturdier wire. And like I showed last night, this tool is perfect for making bails. So to make a bail, you just pinch that in. Actually, they suggest going down to where you want the bail, and with the flat side, you make a bend, almost like a 90-degree bend, and then you go up to the end. This might be too big, but then you just start wrapping around. Push your peak down so it's not sticking up, and you just keep wrapping around. And then that's how you make your loop. So I'll do the other side. And with the flat end, I'm going to make like a 90-degree. Okay. There's a 90-degree, almost a 90-degree. And then I'm going to go and wrap. I like to push that peak down so it's not sticking up, because you don't want to produce something that's going to scratch skin or get snagged on your clothing. So you want to keep all the cutoff ends inside your piece. And then you always check and make sure you can't feel the sharp ends. If you have a piece where the end is kind of sticking up, take a flat nose. Where's my flat nose? Here it is. And just kind of push it down. Hold on a second. Did something come in the mail for me?
Yeah.
Let me see it. Let's see. Something came in the mail from me. And I did order some more expensive stones. And I'm thinking that's what came today. So let me just open this up. I'm getting a little bit more confident with my wire wrapping that I'm starting to invest in a little bit more expensive stones. So let's see what I got. Oh, no, I guess this is wire. Let's see. I don't remember ordering this. Okay, this is brass, half round, dead soft. Yep, now I remember. And it's a 20 gauge. Cool. Let's check that out. Doing unboxing here. I bought this one off of Amazon, actually. You can't tell that it's half round, but there is a round side and a flat side. And it's dead soft brass. You see, let me give you some more information about it. 25-foot coil, made in the USA. Yes. So I'll show you at another time what I use the half round for. But I'm going to try and slip it back in this package to keep it coiled up. I save my wire scraps because sometimes I'll wrap a scrap piece of wire around these coils so they don't come off. So there's another tip. Save your scrap. I know people who save all their silver in a bin, a scrap bin by itself, and melt it down and cash it in. So there's another tip on that. While I'm at it, I'm just going to show you an antique jewelry piece that I have. Those are all little tiny pieces inlaid. And it's actually made in Italy. I think. Let me get a magnifying glass. I think this is the piece that was made in Italy. Yep. It's very old, it's vintage, and it's still in perfect condition. So what I'm going to do is probably, it's a pendant, a pin-on pendant. So what I'm probably going to do is get some tarnished brass and wrap this into a necklace pendant. I like stuff like that, mosaic, some old pieces. Then, okay, let's get busy. I'll show you how I made some of these. I actually made some yesterday, and I didn't really like the way they turned out too well, because I think I used too small of wrapping wire. But I was going to make a bracelet, and that is black onyx wrapped in copper. So I'm just going to set those aside. I'm going to get out my 16 gauge. Now, keep in mind, I am not a professional at this yet. Not yet. I do plan on getting better. And that's why I practice. So I'm going to take a piece of 16 gauge dead soft. Dead soft kind of gets harder as you work with it. And I'm going to straighten it out. And the tool that I use is a nylon coated pliers, flat nose pliers. It's like these, but only it's nylon coated so it doesn't scratch. And it straightens the kinks out. Let me just keep, I don't need too long of pieces. Let me see. These here. Let's say maybe this one. Let's see how long that'll be. Okay, about 3 inches. About a 3-inch piece. Okay. Snip that off. And then I'm going to get a bead. And it has to be a bead that'll take a 16 gauge wire. So I have some beads that I bought. They were advertised as large holes. All right. Get in my bead box here. All right. So for large holes, I have Tiger Eye. Very pretty beads. And that'll take 16 gauge wire. Then what I'm going to do is come in with, I'm going to do 22 gauge on this. Let's see what I got for 22 gauge right here. Okay, this was a piece that I demonstrated with last night on the drill. And what I'm going to do is just snip that off. Actually, no, let me leave that on. I'll finish wrapping that. Let me find a 20 gauge. 22, 21, 20 gauge. 20 gauge. 24, 2, 14. Here's a 20 gauge, but it's a different color. This is made in Pakistan. They don't have the name of the color, but it looks like copper. No, they don't have the name of the color. Well, okay. So I'm going to straighten this out. This is a 20 gauge. I think this is tarnish resistant. There's a tarnish resistant coating on here, I think. All right. So, first of all, I'm going to wrap this around. I can actually take that bead off for a moment. I'm going to wrap this wire. It's going to roll away on me. There. I'm going to wrap this wire around tight. And 20 gauge is a little bit hard to wrap with, but I'm going to use my tools here. And when I start my piece, I want to keep it from slipping around. So I kind of want that tight. And I'm going to come in with a regular needle nose pliers that has the grips on them in there. And grab onto the tail. Now this will always be the tail. And this is your working end. So I'm going to grab a hold of that tail and pull tight. Get a good wrap around that, a good tight wrap. And then I'm going to pinch it back together. And I'm going to cut this tail off. And this tail, this cut end is going to go against the bead. I'm going to just pinch it down a little bit. Make sure that the end of that cut off piece is pinched down tight and not sticking up. Because the point here with wire, you need to make sure that there's nothing going to be scratching skin or getting snagged on clothing. So let me put this bead back on. I'm going to slide it somewhere in the middle. And then I'm going to bring my wire around the bead, snug around the bead. And then my thumb, right here, my thumb is guiding the wire tight around that bead. Now I notice usually what happens is it'll kind of push this wire up a little bit. So it's kind of sticking up, and I want that flatter. So let me do that next. What I'm going to do is come around on top of the this is the main wire. This is my working wire. I'm going to come on top of the main wire because you see where I started, the wire goes on top. You see? So I want to do the exact same thing on this side of the bead. My wire is on top. And I'm going to wrap with my thumb. My thumb is guiding. That's why I lost my fingernails. My thumb is guiding that wire tight. All right. And I'm going to make a full loop around that main wire. Now, what happened is from the first initial bend, this here side is kind of sticking up. You see, it's actually going on an angle. I'm going to press that down tight to the bead. I want to make sure it's tight to the bead before I wrap around the bead again. So I press that in down. Okay. So I'm going to wrap around the other side of the bead, pulling my wire and guiding it tight with my fingers. This is where your calluses are going to come in. And I'm going to go on top of the wire. I'm going to cross the main wire on top. Okay? I'm going to wrap around the main wire again. All right. You'll notice a lot of times your main wire is going to get bent out of shape from you reefing and prying on these wires, especially if you're using a 20 gauge, because this is heavier wire. Now, I've wrapped around that 2 times. Try and get it so the light's not shining so bright. You know, this is a horrible camera for this type of work. But I'm going to show you the other side too. You'll have a front and a back. All right, focus. There we go. On the back side, you're going to see where you're wrapped around the wire. On this side, you're going to see where the wires are going to interlock with each other. This is called a herringbone weave. All right, let me just, there. So now I'm going to start wrapping around the bead again, but this time I'm going to just push these down a little bit, these side wires. Yeah. I'm going to go directly below my first wire wrap. Oh, this is some stiff wire, I'm telling you. I'm going to have to use a tool to push it down in place. I'm going to pull really tight and hang on to the bead instead of the wire. Pull it really tight and go down below that first wire. And then I'm going to come up on top of the base wire. So I am below the first wire, but when I come up over here to the main wire, I want to be on top. And I'm going to wrap all the way around, pulling tight. And I'm going to use my tools. I'd rather pick up my tools and use my tools and let my tools do a lot of the work for me instead of putting this kind of stress on my hands. So now I'm on top of the base wire again. Let me see if I can get a good view. Actually, let me turn off this light and see if it stops some of the shining. Okay, let's try that for a while and see if that lighting helps, because the glare from the light, and it figures I'm going to go out of focus now. The glare from the light shines on there so much because you can't really see what I'm doing. Come on, there we go, we're in focus. Okay, see, I'm on top of that base wire. Now I'm going to take this wire and go down below my first wire, hanging onto the bead, pulling tight. And I'm going to go down below that first wire and come up on top of the base wire again. I'll show you what that looks like. Come on, focus, camera, focus. Oh, it almost wanted to. We're stuck out of focus. Okay, there we go. So I'm on top of the main wire. I'm going to pull down tight and make a loop all the way around that base wire again. Okay. Then I'm going to go underneath the wires I've already put on and come up on top of the base wire. Loop around. I'm going to grab my tool and make sure that these loops here are pushed down tight. Okay, I looped around and I'm going to go down underneath these wires here. Come up on top of that main wire again and loop it around again. Pulling tight. I don't want no big gaps or spaces in this weave. I want a nice, neat looking herringbone pattern. And that is the herringbone pattern. This is the other side of it. You can see some spaces on this side. See some spaces in there. You just take your pliers and just try and press them out, press them down, and get those loops as close as possible. Let's see. I'm going to go back on this side. Press them down. They should all, if they're not tight together, which they're not really going to get real tight together, you want them at least so they're evenly spaced, because if this is an earring or a bracelet, you figure when it flips around, you are eventually going to see both sides of the piece. So another thing you need to do, wait a minute, let's press that down a little bit more. Another thing you need to do is count how many times you're looping around your piece, and you would like it, if there's 4 wraps around on this side, you should have 4 wraps on this side before you end your piece. 4, 6 wraps, however many you want to do. So I'm gonna you see that I'm on top of the base wire. When I come around, I'm going to swoop my wire down underneath these wraps. Come up on top of the base wire. Oh, is my camera blurry? Loop it around again. Now let's say I want to end it here. Okay, let's say I think it looks pretty even. I want to end it. So you're going to make sure your wire is down tight. Make sure that this end is against the base wire. And you're going to try and get your spaces out. Always, go back and check your work. Make sure everything is where it needs to be in place before you snip your wire off. And I'm just going to press that down nice and tight. All right, then when you snip it off, when you snip off your tail or your working end, you'll have a little tail here now. You see that sticking off of there? That will scratch and get caught on clothing. That'll scratch skin. You can file this down a little bit if you want to. So it's not so sharp. A regular emery board will work. You know, the cheap, real cheap dollar emery boards, they're perfect for this small jewelry stuff. Or you can, you know, press that end in and keep going around it with your flat nose, pressing it down. And now I can't even feel it anymore. Okay. Then to make your loops on each side, if you are going to attach this onto something, one of the best tools I found is this one here. It's a bail maker. You can get ring makers where both sides of this tool have rings like this, but I prefer the flat edge because it's a multi-purpose. And you put your flat edge on your base wire, and you bend it towards the flat edge side, not the round side at first. So I'm going to bend this up. I'm bending it towards the flat side. Make a 90-degree bend in there, and then you start going around the round side. And I'm going to have too much here. I can tell this wire is going to be too long already, just eyeballing it. But when you're new, it's hard to eyeball this stuff. After a while, you get a good feel of where lengths should be cut. And you see, now I could actually go around this again. I've made a full circle. So what I'm going to do is just see how it would look if I wrapped it around till it wouldn't go anymore. So there I have like a loop and a half, and I don't like it. So what I'm going to do is cut off where I think I need to cut this off to make a nice circle in there. And it would be right about right there. See, through trial and error, you'll get the feel of it. I think that you'll do fine. All right. I'm going to unroll it a little bit, just enough to catch that end really good. Going to press it down the flat and roll it in there. Now, this wire this wire is stiff actually. All right. So with the flat side again, I'm going to go and bend that 90-degree back a little bit just to center that loop. And this is what I have. If you can get the edge of this loop inside, you won't have any problems with it scratching or catching on clothes. So sometimes I just fiddle with it a little bit. And I just bend that end up a little bit. Enough so it just kind of catches inside. And then there, now it's inside. It's nice and snug. I don't feel any sharp edges. And another thing you can do is turn this sideways if you want your loop to go that way. And you know, if your connecting piece is going to lay a certain way that you need this turned, you can always turn those. And after you've got the other side done and you change your mind, you can you can change this. Sometimes you want one loop going one way, the other loop going another way. You can always change that back. So this is the first wire wrap that I've ever done. It was one of the easiest to learn and catch on to. I could have kept wrapping and made it longer, but this is called the herringbone. You see where they come in and interlock with each other. That's the herringbone weave. So I thought I would come on and just show this real quick, easy one. This I can show because this one I know pretty well. This one I've been doing for a long time. I feel confident enough to teach somebody how to make this one. Some of the other wire wrapping I do, all I can do is say, practice, 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 and you'll learn. So there you have it. That's all I got for you right now. I hope you've learned something. I hope that showing you how to make something so simple has inspired you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I don't want to make little tutorial videos very long. And I'm really not the best teacher, but maybe if I practice, I'll get better. So be well, be safe, be loved, and behave. See you in the next video.